So I just wanted to make this video on the back of the one I did the other day. And this one same stuff, but slightly different kind of focus. So the focus on, to do with this video is how I see in my own journey through life, but in other people as well, is how we, as adults, are initially caught up in materialistic purpose, meaning, and value. And that changes as we get a bit older. So typically, it can be happening at 30, 40, 50, 60 or 70, but I would say typically, maybe, it's hard to tell. Probably starts happening about 50, thereabouts or something. And as I was saying in the other video about society and where I see society is at and how we're not, in fact, I think I ended up on the previous video. I don't recall. Anyway, the elderly, and that can even be people in early retirement, 50 onwards, stopping working because they've got enough, or losing employment and not managing to regain employment. And not really having any sense of purpose anymore in society. And as I'm suggesting here, that then there is a purpose for people after the age of, let's just call it 50, or 60, or retirement, etc. And I don't just mean because the wealth of experience they've gained in life, which the younger generation can tend to dismiss just because of where they're at in life, but also because the world changes all the time and we become dinosaurs. So I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about in a more spiritual sense. The things that we learn that matter more. And that, again, often happens, as it did with myself, being successful enough in life and getting to that point where we think there has to be more to life than this. And then we kind of go on that spiritual awakening journey. So again, the type of stuff I'm offering in relation to, where I'm at in life and what I'm doing and the work I'm doing and how I'm helping people is around, it's generally mostly, I'm not really interested in although part of my training includes my capacity to do general life coaching and be coaching, CEOs, etc. It's not my thing. And that's usually a kind of therapeutic style of coaching. It's not really, and I can do that, and I do that. It's not really who I am and what I'm about. As I say, who I am and what I'm about is more of this kind of spiritually stuff, but a different understanding of spiritual and religious, etc., developmental. And so this video is particularly pitched at seeking to help other people. I mean, for me, it was like early 40s, 42. And again, that I see life working in 7-year cycles, and I've tended to fit in with that. And I started reading the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita and everything, as I said, but here I am, just over 20 years later, and studied various things and done my own personal development to some degree. And I think where we're at in life and in society people in, let's say, the second half of adulthood might be the way to put it, are struggling to see, to some degree, to see the point and what they've got to contribute. And yeah, we're being grandparents and such like and contributing in that way. And we tend to do that kind of grandparenting differently from our parenting, and partly because of what kind of haunts us about our own parenting. But again, this is another level of stuff. That mainstream society isn't making available to us and showing us the value of what we've got to offer from where we're at in life and what we're already actually doing, how we are already behaving in different ways that's more happening because we are spiritually awakening. We just don't realize that that's what's happening. And so we tell ourselves we're not religious, we're not spiritual, when we're actually behaving in a way that's actually more coming from that deeper truth of who and what we are. We just don't know it and don't see it, but it's actually happening, whether we, as I said, religious, agnostic, atheistic, whatever, it happens anyway. The self-realization process is happening to us regardless whether we like it or not. As I said, coming into the world as that pure divine essence, go into the psychological functioning level that is what we call ego, whilst always being our true self, and then that true self seeking to awaken. And then the ego's resistance is to letting that happen because it operates in what's the word I use? Like a survival mechanism instead of a self-fulfillment kind of calling. So some of the work then is, I'm just looking at a wee post-it tab here. So some of the spiritual stuff that's going on out there is quite kind of spiritual bypassy. Whereas for me, it's about, I'm more of a realist than an idealist. And I don't tend to go into we're all just creating our own sense of what's going on in the world anyway, and it's not really real, and it's a dream, or it's imaginative, and all of that stuff. Because we are here in the world in this human form, and we are feeling that. And that's the invitation to kind of create heaven on earth as I see it, if you want to use those words. And so it then becomes more about the spirit of what we're doing. And what I mean by that is for us to learn to pay attention to kind of coming out of being triggered, and understanding that if we're, again, as I said in the previous video, if we're being triggered, there's something there that's inviting us to do a bit of self-realization, to do a bit of untangling, freeing ourselves up from the way we've been in the past. But we need to use present moment consciousness to catch there's something going on here, and I am my own higher, wiser guidance anyway. That higher self, Holy Spirit, call it what you will, that's me at a higher level of functioning, and us all. And it's got this thing happening for me to untangle something. And the same with other persons. So when the other person, so there's a kind of phrase that I use, which is none of us are of our own making. We're all consequences of our childhood environments, and specifically in relation to siblings and parents and our village, town, our culture, our race, all that stuff shapes us into who we are in earlier childhood. And this part of life is about, again, freeing up from that and realizing I am not that, and realizing the truth of who and what we are. And one of this kind of spiritual practices within it, as well as the heart stuff that I mentioned yesterday, is And it's similar, watching for the spirit of where we're coming from, in our relationships when we interact with others. Am I coming from a loving, caring, understanding, forgiving, compassionate place as a consequence of understanding that nobody is of their own making and everybody's in a self-realization process and everybody's ignorant to the fact that that's what's happening to them. And so when we've got an understanding of that, we can have more love, understanding, compassion, forgiveness, acceptance, gratitude, all that stuff, kindness towards the other person when we have got a sense of what's actually going on in the world and going on for all of us as we take this journey through life. Because otherwise, when we tell ourselves to be loving, forgiving, compassionate, understanding, we're coming from a conceptual place that this is the right thing to do to be a good person. And that can also be a bit egoic, in contrast to having an actual understanding of what's going on and therefore actually being in truth. And so there's the clean spirited part and being holy in spirit from sincerely, genuinely being more loving, understanding, compassionate, because we know what that journey's about, and it's the same for us. But we have to keep practicing it, and we have to practice it in safe spaces, which is the Zoom calls that I run, where we create spaces to look at all this stuff and discuss what's going on for us individually in our lives and accept that we'll get it wrong more than get it right, and then have love, understanding, compassion, etc. for ourselves, because we've got to be able to do that as well. So to summarize then, what I'm saying is the people that are mostly beginning to do this and aspiring to do this and needing help to do this and needing help to see how life actually works and what's going on for us spiritually and psychologically as we journey through life, the people that are mostly there are the people that are in that second half of adulthood, and there's more and more at younger age. And so my interest then is reaching out to these people that are in the second half of adulthood to find a sense of purpose, meaning, and value again, in doing this work to assist your own self-realization, your own spiritual kind of waking up, so that you can be more in line with your truth and more in service to humanity and what's going on. Because it's happening anyway. It's happening to you whether you like it or not. And you can either get dragged along behind that in ignorance, or you can learn what's actually about, what's going on, and get on board with it. And life becomes easier. So I'm going to stop there because I think yesterday's video was a bit too long. Or I was told yesterday's video was a bit too long. And this one's probably also too long.